Okay, people. So today I am joined by writer, actor, comedian Tuazon Parsons. Now, do we throw in the legg-ett, or is that
Uh,
just more for home?
that's that's the married name. Like I joke in the special about me, just keep adding names to myself. Just I'm adopted, and then I got a new name, and right now it's Anna Tuazon Parsons, but I will eventually have to do all the other stuff and add that guy on. My husband. So yeah, just Tuazon Parsons right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, no worries. I just watched the special. Funny, definitely funny.
Good. Oh, good.
Okay. So yeah, it must be a relief when something like that is finished. Though, is it? Because then you have to put it out in the world. So you finish it, but then you have to put it out, and then you have to write new material. So,
Yeah.
like, what for you was this process like?
It was long. We started with just an idea. We started with or I had the idea. It came to me in a meditation. And I approached Aiden and Nikki, who I knew did stand up and were both immigrants. And, we rehearsed for about a year. So we were open micing, we were working material, meeting up with Felipe Figueroa, our director, and just sort of like combining everything, workshopping, pitching ideas. And then finally we shot it. And we actually shot it a week before the pandemic started.
Mhm.
So it was like, I mean, the timing was insane because had we waited another week, it wouldn't have been shot. So like, yeah, it's practically a miracle it happened. So and yeah, just like with anything, it's you start off with hopefully a budget, and we like didn't have a budget, so we just called in favors, and we were supported by Risa Brahma Garcia and Steve Braun at BGB Studio. It's an acting studio in Los Angeles, where I actually met Nikki. We shot in the studio. And there were things that came up, like our DP, like that we had hired on. He bailed out like a week before, and then we reached out to our network, and Lena McAllister came on, our incredible DP, and she was like, "I want to support you guys." And I feel like that through this whole process, that's been an underlying like the theme song is like, we love what you guys are doing. We want to come on board and support you. We believe in this project. So like it's been really wonderful in that sense because we like didn't have a budget. So and then so then we shot it, and then it was pandemic. It was like, okay, here's a pandemic, deal with this. And it's my first time producing something on this sort of scale, both in a comedy special sense and also in a, having gotten it out there sense. So a lot of it was new to me. I was just trying to figure out, what do I do next? Who do I call? Like, what's the post production process? They don't tell you about, I mean, just even post itself. It's like, the editing and then getting a song and then, cutting title. I mean, like all these other little small things. Were very new to me. But then once it was done, we got a publicist, and she was able to get us connected with Despop Entertainment, and they were excited about us. Matt Levy just brought us on and was like, "Hey guys, I love what you're doing. I want to get you out there." And then we landed on Amazon and worldwide on Tubi. So we made it. It took 3 years, but I mean, as a lot of films do, takes time.
Yeah,
Um,
no, definitely.
yeah.
Like, when you had that initial idea, right? Were there other people that you considered that you could do this with, or was it just Aiden and Nikki were just literally the first and like, no, it's got to be them?
They were the first and only. I I either just don't know that many immigrants, or I just don't know that many Asian. Their names just specifically came to me, and I joke that it's like my titas or like my Filipino ancestors. They were like talking to me in my head about this particular project. Like in my meditations, often like ideas will come, and so I like wrote it down, and then and they were excited and were willing to come on board and work for free and just give their time and energy and stories. So yeah, I was lucky that they just said yes to the dress right away.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's always, I think that's always helpful. And like, you kind of figure it makes sense, right? It makes sense to do something. There's it's all a showcase,
Mm.
right? It's all you know what I mean? Like whatever you do, it's going to benefit you in some way, right? And the money will come at some point. So it's just like, why not help someone out? Do something.
Yeah, I mean, I think, depending on where you are in your career, it can be like, I feel like I'm at a point where I like am being a little bit more choosy with things that I want to invest time in, because it's like time and energy and, sort of space. And I know that Aiden was concerned about like what you said about burning jokes and like having it out there and then having to restart, which is actually where we've all been at. We have to like essentially restart everything because
Mm.
the special's out. So it's like, I can't be doing the same jokes now. You know what I mean? Like, because people have seen that. But yeah, I mean, I think in the end, us coming together and, just also just the response we've gotten, we've got a wonderful write up in the LA Times, and then people reaching out to me in the Filipino community, like telling my story, being half Filipino. And I think because what we created, we knew was going to resonate with people. And as our, comics, not just doing like didn't like funny jokes, but something that could, as a storyteller, really move people, was important to us. And then we found that that was the case. People like really responded to it, and yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, like with this, because I think it's kind of like a European thing sometimes to, you go to places like Edinburgh and there's so many themes on a special,
Mm.
right? So was it like, oh, yeah, this will work the best. This is the best way to kind of capture people rather than just do, you know what I mean? Like have something that's really funny, but it's just all different types of jokes. Like having a run through theme that connects everyone together, like is the way to go with this.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I had lunch with our director yesterday, Felipe, and he said the thing about the special that makes it so special also is the specificity of it makes it universal. So the specificity of our stories, and all three of our unique stories and our unique experiences, make it universal in a world where someone can relate to being bullied, someone can relate to losing a loved one, someone can definitely relate to my identity crisis. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's all these little things that are very specific to each of our lives that make it in one way or another, it'll touch someone. And I'm hoping that's what it did. I think it's what it did. So
Yeah, no, that's actually something I talked about, right? Because I think, and I was having a conversation yesterday actually with James Choi, because we were told, remember, like years back, we were told that ethnic people can't headline a film. Right, a film isn't going to sell. Right, Vogue won't sell if it's not a white person on the cover. Like we've been told these things, which just were never true. Right, they were never true. But because it's just like, I remember when like DC Marvel would put out a comic book with a black or Asian or whatever hero. But then you'd find out that even before the first issue was gonna drop, it had been cancelled, right? Because they're saying, "Oh, there's not enough pre-sales from the news agents and the outlets," but they never pushed the books, right? When all the other books would have all these interviews with the artists and the writer, but the other never pushed them. Right. So, yes, of course, there's no interest because no one knows it's happening. And I
right.
think that was always the thing, right? There was no, people would say, oh, there's no interest, but it's because no one knows about it. You're not trying to push this thing. So, you know what I mean? Like stories like this, you can relate to them. Right? There's always something that can connect someone to a story. It doesn't have to be from someone who necessarily looks like you. Because
Right.
I'm listening to yours, and I just remember as a little kid, I'd have grown people come up to me and go back to your own fucking country. You know what I mean? And you're just like, why is this grown person shouting at me? you know, or your friends at school would be like, "Ah, don't you wish you were white?" And it'd be
Mm,
like, "Huh?
mm,
Like, I don't wait, why am I getting asked these questions? What's going on?" So it's just like, yeah, listening to you talk about this stuff, it was just like, oh shit, yeah, yeah, I know what that's like. I can relate to that.
mm.
So I think it, yeah, for me it worked, right? And you can get with those stories. You can, listening to what Nikki was talking about, you know, I kind of sucked with the friend, right? But
Yeah.
you can because the thing, like, she's worried that the things that would push him away
Hmm.
would be her sexuality, when
Hmm.
really it was a trust thing. Right? And that's just like, oh, like it's this little gut punch, just that,
Hmm.
because it's just like, it's not the thing that you feared, but because
Hmm.
of the fear and insecurity, you can't just be like, that's not the thing.
Yeah.
It's cool. You know what I mean? You're like, oh man. So like, and Aiden talking about, his his boyfriend dying and just
Hmm.
all of that, and it's just sad. But when you can turn that, you can flip it and you can use it for humor, there's something just magical about that. So I just think, like, people can watch these things, and it's regardless of sex, gender, you know what I mean? There's any of that bullshit, you can look at it and go, yeah, I can emphasize,
Hmm.
that's amusing, I like this.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm glad people are enjoying it, and because, yeah, as I say, it definitely worked for me. Um, how did the whole LA Times thing come about?
So, Aiden is actually good friends with Nate Jackson, who is the editor of the LA Times, the entertainment section. And Nate, so he had loosely pitched, well, he had pitched the idea basically to Nate, and I know that he'd worked together with him on something, and Nate had been a fan of Aiden's for a while. And so I had a conversation with him. He pitched it to him, and he was like, "Hey, we're doing this thing." And at the time, we hadn't hooked up with Desktop yet, but we were on a online streamer called Real Women's Network.
Mm,
So it was just like an online, you could rent us on that platform. There's so many platforms now, but yeah. So we pitched it to Nate. I had a conversation with him, and then he had the incredible Charisma Matarang, who is also a Filipino journalist. And he was like, "Listen, I love what you guys are doing. I believe that this visibility needs to be seen." He's like, "I love comedy." It just felt like a great fit for the times. And then I had lunch with Charisma, and yet again, I was astounded at how many similarities I felt like I had with her. And it's also been interesting actually having this come out. I've met a lot of half Filipinos and other Filipinos where Asian Americans in general, but specifically in my experience, it's been Filipinos where so much of what I talk about is they can relate to, you know what I mean?
mm.
Like, and so we had a really long lunch at LA Rose and just talked about growing up, and, and she, interviewed me, and yeah, so that's how the magic happened. And then I knew we were going to be out in the online, but then when we had the Sunday calendar section, I was like, oh my God, we've got
Mm.
like a whole, it's like framed on my wall. I was like, we've got the legit paper.
Nice.
So yeah.
Awesome. No, that's great. Like, with putting all of this together, right? The expectation and then the reality of it, like, how far apart were those two things
Hmm.
at the beginning for you?
I mean, again, I think because we had no budget, like, I'm one of those people who I feel like if I like, they joke about me being like this bulldog, especially with this project. When I believe in something, I will like not let it go. And I think ultimately because it is, along the lines of my purpose as a Filipino American comedy a writer. I write specs for television, and I write a lot about the Filipino American female experience. Like, this was just along the lines of everything I felt like I needed to get done and make. So honestly, and having created things before, I feel like if anything gets done, like it gets finished, it's already a win. You know what I mean? Like, so by the
Yeah.
time we had finished post and like things were done, I was like, oh my God, we actually finished this thing. It's done. It hadn't come out there yet, but I was already just pleased that the whole thing had come together and it was like ready to go. So and then again, it was my first time like meeting with distribution companies and things like that. So I think when anything gets made in Hollywood, it's practically a miracle. But then when it actually gets out there, it's like even more that. So my expectation, I think I always set the bar pretty low so that I'm not disappointed, and then when the magic started happening, when, Matt came on board and was like fighting for us and, and then he was telling us who he was pitching to, and then we, landed on Amazon and, Tubi, I was like, wow, like it exceeded expectations. I just didn't even expect this to happen. So, yeah, it's been an exciting journey. So it's kind of, I'm still pinching myself.
Oh, that's great. Like, was there any point where you thought that you could drop it on YouTube?
Yeah, we discussed that. And the problem with that for Aiden, and this is actually something that we had discussed very early on in the stages of developing this, and which I completely understand, his issue was, again, burning the jokes. And he didn't want to just put it out there because, his material was too too precious to him, and he'd worked so hard on this, and we all had worked really hard on shooting this thing. So I mean, yeah, we did consider it, and I think we might have brought it to the table again with him at some point before we got Real Women's Network, and then got Matt. But because a lot of it was just trying to figure out, how do we get this out there, can we just like send it to people and show it? But luckily enough, we just found somebody who believed in us and wanted to push for it. So
yeah, no, that's correct. Because I think a bit like you, Mike Feeney recorded a special just before lockdown. And I think he put his out on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I know a few comics have gone that route of late.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had thought about it, but also, I mean, it's essentially just to get it out there. And maybe at some point, I think maybe we had talked about it again with Aiden and said, maybe in a year, if nothing happens, we'll just do that just to make sure it gets out there. But yeah, and I think the thing that's always can be a little bit tricky is if you don't have a name involved, so none of us are like name comics. And Nikki's been working a lot. She worked on the Emmy-winning Dropout, and she's her visibility is definitely rising. But all of us have been working, but we're not, we're that middle class actor, middle class comic. But because we didn't have a celebrity attached or anything, it felt like it would be harder to get that visibility. So we wanted to wait and see if we could find a home.
Yeah.
We did.
No, that's great. Because I don't think there's any one way to do any of this stuff. I mean, that's always the interesting thing. There's so many different ways you can approach things, and it's just finding the thing that works best for you,
Yeah.
What is the joke writing process like for you?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm still figuring that out. I get jokes and I write them down. All right. I'll like email them to myself. I have like a whole like folder of like jokes and stuff. And sometimes it's practicing on open mics, it's reframing things. It's, but often like I'd imagine like a lot of comics, it's just life happens. And then I just have to remember to write it down and then see if it's funny and see if people like it.
Do you ever utilize voice notes?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
I've tried voice notes. There's been times when I've been, on the elliptical in the gym and I'm working out, and then I think of something, be like, oh shit, that's fine. And I'm laughing to myself, thinking, weirdo, stop coming here. Right. And I just think, oh, I will forget that if I
Yeah.
don't get it down. So I get my phone and I'll like say the joke into the phone, but
Yeah.
sometimes, you know what I mean, what you're saying, if you said it out loud, out of context, people are gonna be like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? So you have to speak quiet. So you're speaking a bit quietly, be like, yeah, and then I'm just laughing to myself as well. I'm like, oh, yeah, and I'm thinking, and I'm like, right, get home, and I play it, and all I hear is a I'm just like, God damn it.
So funny. That's
Ah,
funny.
yeah, it's just
Um,
a pain sometimes
yeah.
trying to get things down in a way that, you know, you can sometimes I'll just write a word to like have a trigger,
Yeah.
but then it's sometimes it works, and then other times you're like, I don't know what banana means. Like,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
did I write down banana? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what am I doing here?
That's so funny. Yeah, I do. So I do both. I'll do the voice memo and shoot myself an email. I do. Yeah, I talk to myself all the time. So people, I'm sure, are like, what is she doing? I'm like, but then that's it. You know, it's talking to myself. I feel like that's a writer thing though too. You know.
Is there like a time of day that can work for you best sometimes?
No, it's like all the time, or anytime.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, and how long do you give a concept? Right? If you thought of an idea and so
Mm.
going up, you know, trying to work these things out, how long do you, you know, for the most part, try and give something before you be like, I don't think it's working at the moment. So
Yeah,
there's things that you go, I don't think that will ever work. And then other things that you might go, you know what, I'm not gonna dump it, but I'm
yeah.
gonna think about it a bit more and see if I can find another way in.
I mean, I will try something, and often it's just sometimes it's just the reframing of the joke, you know, the reframing of the words or moving things around to see if it connects. And again, I feel like it can be kind of it also depends on your audience, you know. It can depend on like where you're at or your environment or but I'll give stuff time. I mean, I was actually looking at my old stuff when I first started out. I started with a breakup set and talking about like you know, getting dumped and stuff like that, which is very like I feel like a lot of my stuff other than maybe being Filipino, a lot of my stuff is relatively universal. So
Mm.
I've actually been thinking about bringing back some of that stuff. And you know, I'm married now, but like I have so much like Tinder and dating stuff that I never really dived into. And I'm like, God, I've got some good jokes. I've got some good stuff there. So might be going back to Tinder
I
jokes.
I would definitely that was always a thing, right? Because dating is just the worst.
Yeah, it's
Like
the worst.
just the what like Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, Matchy, Heart. Like you think, oh, this will be better. And it's just like, oh no, it's not. No,
Hmm.
it's not. Right? It's like, God damn it. You know, my grandparents talk about World War II, but if they experience fucking Tinder, they would know what pain is. You know what I mean? But you could get like just all of these crazy situations that you can find yourself in.
Yeah.
It can definitely lead to some like good material.
Yeah, it can. I mean, and I met my husband on Tinder. So I guess we are a success story. But
Mm.
I swiped for a long time, let me tell you. I was like, I am auditioning in the day and I'm casting my husband at night. Let's go. I was like, this is what we're doing. But it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But I definitely got some good material from that.
Mm. Now, now you're married,
Mhm.
right? You got yourself hooked, which is
Mhm.
all gravy finding that person. But what are their, you know, what's their viewpoint on the comedy? Like, have there been talks like, listen, I love what you do, but what happens in here can't
Uh,
go out there?
Yeah, yeah. You know, we've never had that conversation. In fact, I think he'll always like be pitching me jokes and stuff. He's actually quite funny. But he is honestly my number one cheerleader. Like he is, basically like go all for it. I think he really understands the fact that there's a line between, the real narrative and like what actually happens, you know what I mean? So embellishing and like whatever, I think he has a sense of his knowing who he is and how our marriage is and stuff. So there haven't been any lines drawn or boundaries drawn yet in terms of like joke telling with marriage stuff, but that could change. I don't know. It always change. But I have been lucky enough to meet somebody who has been supportive of me as an actor and comic and writer, and just generally never wants me to stop. So I looked out. I swiped right. I swiped the right way.
You definitely did, it sounds like.
Yeah.
No, I think that's always great, right? Because I think with so many things, right? And when you think about all the stuff that has been talked about over the last few years, right? I think intent is a big thing that never really gets mentioned,
Mm.
and I think you're telling a joke about like an experience you had with a loved one or a friend or something like that, but it's just like it's all about intent, right? And if that, you've always been cool to that person, right? You've never disrespected them, you've never crossed the line or done anything, like they should understand that the joke is the joke, right? It's not a personal attack, but for whatever reason, sometimes it can just turn people the wrong way, and it always baffled. Like, has that ever happened to you with a friend or a family member or anything like that?
No. I mean, like if I'll tell a joke and I'll mention to a friend it's like about them or like loosely about them, often they'll just say, just like, don't say my name, just, like, don't say my
Yeah.
name. But otherwise, I think it's interesting because I feel like if the joke's funny and if the joke hits, that's when people are like, oh, it's a great joke. Like, I don't even care that you're making fun of me. Like but because it it's well responded to, people are like, okay, that's fine. But no, I've never personally had that experience. And it's funny because Aiden, I think he says in the special, he says something like, Michael would have loved that joke, even though it was like something, I think it's a joke about him. He literally ghosted him or something in case he died.
Yeah, because there's
like, he would love that joke.
And it's just like, people chill.
Just like, no, he would have loved that joke. Like, I don't know. I think we just found partners and people around us that hopefully get it, and also like that's essentially who we're surrounded by anyway. So, yeah, very supported.
Okay, no, that's always good, because I was working on a bit one point, and it was just about like red flags, right? And it was something around like, if a girl's best friend is her mum, that's a red flag, right? And because I'm just like, straight away, you find out they ain't got any friends, you know what I mean? And I brought my friend along with me, and then and people laughed at the joke, and then I got off, and he's just like, yo, right, my wife's best friend. Like, what do you mean by the joke?
He
I'm
was
like,
offended.
yo,
Yeah, it's a joke.
like it was. It wasn't about you. I didn't
Yeah,
mention
yeah,
you. Like,
yeah,
it's a joke. People
yeah,
found it funny, but it
yeah,
became this thing, and it was just like, yo, what is happening?
yeah. Not everything's about you. Wasn't about you, but it is weird that your wife's best friend with her daughter. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. I kind of find if you don't have friends your own age, what are you doing?
It's weird. That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So it sounds like you do comedy.
I've dabbled.
Mm-hmm.
I've dabbled. Haven't haven't got up for a while, but I dabbled a little bit. I just find I find it a little problematic because my eyesight is terrible.
Mm.
So it's just like standing on a stage and then being able to know where the stage is, you know, then you've got this light in your
In your
face that you
face.
can't see anything.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just like, am I gonna walk off the stage? Is it
yeah.
okay? Like
That's a
what?
whole bit in itself.
Oh
This is a
man.
whole bit.
But then it's like a lot of the clubs or where things are over here are like, you know, down an alleyway, round a corner,
Mhm.
over a bridge, and it's always in these weird places. And it's hard navigating.
Mhm,
So I have
mhm.
to try and bring someone with me to find a place. And
Okay.
then it's trying to find people to come out, and it's all meh, a thing.
It's a
So it's
lot. Yeah. Wait, are you in London? Where are you?
yeah, London.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But you know, is something that I thought about, you know, trying to get back into.
Mm.
I've written this kind of specially thing, which I'm like, I could take it to Edinburgh maybe and
Yeah.
see how it goes. So I don't know, we'll see what happens with that. But you know, I'm kind of yeah, tied up with the film stuff at the
Mhm.
moment. So you know, it's just finding that time,
Yeah,
you know.
you sound busy. You sound like a busy bee.
Trying, just
Mhm.
trying, you know, like for you, because you know, you act, you write, it's the comedy.
Mhm.
Like, what, like, if you could only do one of those things, what would be the one? And like, when you think about all of those different things and
Mhm.
the joy you get from each, is it the same or is it hitting certain different areas for you?
That's an interesting question. Well, I've been an actor for a very long time. So I mean, I graduated theater school in 2004, and I studied musical theater and classical text and like Shakespeare and all that shit, and in New York City. And yeah, and so I've been working as an actor for a long time, and I love acting. I recently listened to a podcast. I don't know why. Like I always I know acting's hard, in terms of like working and whatever.
Mm,
But it's a podcast I like called Audrey Helps Actors, and she was talking about how an average SAG-AFTRA member is like they make like $10,000 a year. That's like an average, that's an average actor, like
right.
kind of middle class, I guess. And I was like listening to that, and I was like, man, like that's crazy if you think about it, because we all have to have a second job. We all have to
Mm,
be doing something else. So I don't know. The answer to your question is I started writing, and I also started doing stand-up comedy, I think, to like both supplement the lack of creativity and creative opportunities I was getting as an actor. And I think that I've discovered more and more that um, there are certain things within the acting world that interest me than others. And some of those things definitely lean into my storytelling as a Filipino American, like the television comedies I've written. I'm definitely more interested in the exploration of what that is for myself as a writer. And um, yeah, I would say, I would say acting. I would say they're all kind of three on the same level. Stand up, I actually haven't, to be completely honest, I haven't gone full force in terms of how I have with my acting career.
yeah.
So it would be interesting to explore what that would look like for me, which is hysterical considering I did the special and where it is, and it took only 3 years and it's here, and I'm like, okay, well that must be a sign you should be you should be doing a lot more stand up. um but yeah, I think I like them all equally. The thing I love about writing is that I don't have to care about what I look like. That's really nice. And voiceover work is, don't have to like put my face on or, that stuff as an actor. Um, but yeah, and again, like the writing and stand up evolved because of like the lack of opportunities as an actor, and not booking work and whatever. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna start creating my own stuff.
Mm. But yeah, I do feel that is the way to go with things,
Yeah.
right? Because you can wait around forever for people to do something. You know, because people make these promises and be like, oh yeah, no, I'd be down for doing that. And then it just, you know, you're like, okay, are we going to do it now? 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 You know, so it's just like, you know what? Fuck other people. Let me just do this thing. Let me start this thing. And I think if you can find like-minded people as well, you know what I mean? Like, all the better, right? Create your own collective, because I think when you listen to a lot of, you know, successful people, you know, they have those collectives, they have those groups of people that support you, help you out with things, you help them out, and you just lift each other, you know, to success.
And then when you're, I mean, when you're just straight up talking the math in terms of acting, you know, in terms of either opportunities as an actor to audition, or, you know, the percentage of times like you'll end up working. I mean, it's just, it's so hard. I mean, it's the numbers just don't add up, you know, if you want to remain, I think, creatively fulfilled and, you know, want to, like, yeah, that just doesn't add up. So, that's, you know, one of the reasons I started writing.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. Like, something that was mentioned in the LA Times article, I was interested about, right? Because and they talk about the fact that some of your earlier stuff was, you know, I think it says, what's it say? I've got a thing here, right? Though past sets leaned on dog-eating jests, she's constantly reworking her sets to punch up, not punch down. And yeah, I was interested in, you know, what you might consider punching up and punching down, because I think sometimes I look at these things as it's not, because, you know, people might go, oh, like saying that thing, it's low hanging fruit, right? But I think it can be low hanging if you're lazy about it, right? It's like in music when people sample things, right? I just remember Praz sampled the Bee Gees' Staying Alive, and it was just basic. It just seemed like a basic just lift of a huge section and looping it. But then on oh man, god damn it, my memory sucks. On the 444 album, on one of Jay-Z's songs, and I forget which one, which is irritating, he samples Hammer, like Can't Touch This. But just, I think it's like just that, just a little. And if you're not paying attention, you would never know. And I think I love those kind of samples because it's smart. It's taking something and just turning it into something completely different. And I kind of look at that with jokes as well, right? You can take a simple kind of subject, right? A saying that people throw around, and then completely changing it, right? Shifting that approach of the joke, a bit like when you talking about going to the party with, you know, your homemade food, right? I don't think people thought that the punchline was going to be what the punchline was on that joke.
Right.
So it's like shifting things. So yeah, yeah. That, so I'm always curious about like the interpretation of, you know, these different concepts.
So, like, it's so interesting because Nikki and I talk about this all the time. She has a part in the special where I think she talks about the Korean eating dog, which is
Yeah.
funny to me in the sense that I had done a similar joke when one of my first sets. I was like, then I was getting dinner. I was like, Anna, dinner, dog. It was like this, you know, same thing in terms of Filipinos eating dog. And she was adamant. I mean, she, you know, she's mentioned in interviews post the special that she would rewrite that, and she would rewrite it in a different way because of its, you know, because it's like essentially we're just saying like Asians eat dogs, and this is like a whole stereotypical thing, and we're just gonna like make fun of it. And interestingly enough, I went to another comedy show, and I think they're also on Amazon, and the girl is Asian, and she also makes like a dog joke, right? So I think when as I look at my comedy now, because it also can be challenging, right? Because I do want to make fun of myself. I do want to make fun of my family. Like I do want to make fun of like, you know, I joke that like every woman in my family has like, white dick on a green card, right? To get out of the Philippines, like whatever. But it's truth, it's true. It's true to me. It's true to my family. It's true to the women in my family. Like that's what they've done. So so I guess when I'm looking at a joke now, I try to figure out whether or not is serving its purpose in the sense of am I being lazy? Am I just doing like some dumb fucking, eat dog Asian joke, Filipino stereotype joke, or am I actually saying something here? You know what I mean? And or just trying to get deeper into whatever that joke conversation is, because I think before I didn't uh maybe realize or recognize that like, they're going to find it very funny in Wisconsin, they're going to find it very funny in Kansas, if I'm just making a generic Asian joke. But is that the kind of narrative I want to continue to do as a storyteller? Is that the kind of joke telling I want to continue to do? And I don't think it is. So but it's taken me time to realize that.
Yeah, but that I feel that makes sense, right? Because when you start anything off, you look at it in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's learning the writing process, right? So it's just like, oh, string these words together in this sentence. That works, right? But then as you know, get older in the game, you're like, I'm trying to add more nuance to my
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for that different in because I don't want to sound like, the person in the Mail or the person in the Telegraph or, that comedian or that comedian,
Mm-hmm.
right? You want to bring something different to the table,
Yeah.
but it's more, I think sometimes it's not so much I don't want to tell that joke because it's played out, but it's like I want to approach this in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think everyone comes in via that route. So if I can find a different route that was original to me,
Mm-hmm.
then I know this works,
Yeah.
right? If I can't, then it's probably not a joke worth telling.
Yeah, and Nikki's also said that with her comedy, she leans towards not necessarily it being educational, but in some sense it is. It's showing like by telling her story, but telling it in the way that isn't punching down, and isn't demeaning or demoralizing to like her culture or my culture. So yeah, and it really did hit me when I heard that girl say like do a dog joke, and I was like, my God, we've all done the dog joke. We have all done the dog joke. Like there's probably not been one Asian comic that has not started off with a fucking dog joke, eating dog.
But I think it's probably across the board though,
Mm,
right? Because there's definitely, like white people will have jokes that they always tell,
mm,
right? Black people the same, just whatever denomination, there's those kind of jokes that people lean on.
mm-hmm,
But then, as I say, like the more you do it, the more you kind of lean into this, right? When you're looking at it as more than just something I do every now and again,
mm-hmm,
right? There's something like I want to make this something,
mm-hmm,
or every time I get up, I want it to be impactful,
mm-hmm,
right? So even if I'm not getting just crazy laughs, I'm able to kind of see what might work, like the structure of things lets me flip things around. Like when you then start looking at things like that, I think you look at the material differently.
mm-hmm, yeah.
And so you start going, you know what? Yeah, no, I can't tell the safe joke, right? I want to challenge myself, right? I'm going to tell a story that is a little dark, but I'm going to make it funny. I'm going to find the funny in this thing. And I think you all did that in the special, right? You got raw on some things, but then on the outro, you got to the funny, right? And I think that's always the joy of this. Like it's taking those rough things and it's making them funny.
Yeah, and I think, and thank you for that, because that's exactly what we wanted to do. When we started talking about this, Felipe had just watched, our director just watched Hannah Gadsby's special, Nanette, and he told us, he was like, I really want what this to be is essentially like along the same lines of the vibrations of what Hannah brought to the table, which is like, this is comedy, but I have got some shit to say, and I've also I've wanted to, if we make you laugh and we make you cry, then we did our job, which is what I think that we did. And I made myself cry, but I always make myself cry. So I like to cry.
Yeah, when you were talking about your mum towards the end, like you could definitely see the emotion in that piece. Like, how is that for you? Because I know, like, sometimes I'll be talking about, people's films and different projects and things like that, and you hit certain subjects, and like, you don't realize that going into this thing is gonna hit you in a certain way, and then like, you're all like, oh fuck, right? And it's just like, well, we've only been talking for 10 minutes, so I can't end it now.
Yeah.
Right? Need to continue, but I'm feeling a bit shit, right? So it's just like, sort the emotions out. Come on, get it together, get it together. Like, how do you work through those things to be able to, you know what I mean? Like you've obviously you've been up, you've told the jokes before, so you know these jokes work. In a second I'm gonna hit the funny, right? But how do you work through that moment before when it's hitting you? The rawness is hitting you in that way.
So again, thank you for asking this question. Our director Felipe was the one that helped me navigate that last moment, because in previous rehearsals I had just been like, just like on the floor sobbing, just like, and he's like, Anna, he's like, I love you, but it's not about you. It wasn't about me. It's like, how do I tell this story through the emotion, be in the work, but also affect the audience, which is the purpose, right? The purpose is to like tell the story so that they're looking back at me with tears. And let me tell you, Kevin, in that moment, I was like looking around and I just remember like seeing people crying. And I was like, I was like, there's like that moment, because I was like, oh, this is a stand-up special, but we're actually moving people in the audience. It was so cool. That was like the coolest thing. So the way I navigated it was by having an amazing director who was able to, find those ebbs and flows it allows. And also Aiden, it was his first time talking about being HIV positive. He'd never done that before. So that won't, and at the time, like maybe the day or two before shooting, he was actually on the fence about talking about that. He was like, I don't know if I can. And Felipe was like, no, you have to bring everything. You have to bring your vulnerability. You have to bring your full self. And so it was because of Felipe, it all, came together.
That's cool. Really cool. Now, how does that work, right? Because you didn't know Felipe before you started this. So how do you get to a point with someone that you don't know as well as you know these other people to be able to be like, no, I think this is what you do on this point, right? How do you build that trust with someone? Is it, having loads of conversations, going out for meals? Like, what is that process like for you?
So we did end up doing that. We did end up having a lot of conversations and meals. But I actually did know Felipe, and I've known him actually for quite a long time. We actually met at an acting studio 2012.
Okay,
So
well, you just blew my
12,
mind,
this,
Anna.
yeah, so it was a really long time. Yeah. So I actually have known him for a long time. He's also he was a master teacher also at BGB Studio, and a terrific actor, and we've collaborated on a few things together. I'd never worked with him on comedy specifically, so that was very new. But I felt very safe with him, which I think
Okay.
is obviously very important as an artist, to be feeling safe in an environment, and with your director. So
Mm,
he was very familiar with my work. But I think that moment, which you mentioned at the end, was so key, I think, to round out what I had started with. Was sort of coming back to my mom from the beginning, but also being able to do that and not just be like heaving on the floor, or like, because that isn't the purpose, right? It's like I have to
yeah.
affect the audience. So yeah, so we were just very lucky to have him.
Uh-huh. No, that's cool. Yeah, I think that's always the big thing, right? Having the people around you who you can trust,
Hmm.
right? Who will tell you this is working, that's not working, or oh, just shift that and you'll kill with it, right? I think
Hmm.
that is the big thing. But I think it's weird, right? Because there's so many times when you can think someone is down, right? You
Hmm.
think someone's a ride or die, but then you realize though they're more a hindrance,
Mm.
right? But you only know those things when you hit certain moments in life. So it's just like it can be frustrating, but when you find those people, that's great. It's
Hmm.
it's great to have those people around you.
Yeah, I feel like I've been lucky, in the sense that when, a lot of my friends from college and sort of my college years, they've become friends. I mean, just stayed friends for like the longest time. They're either writers now, or, still living in New York, and playwrights, and definitely like my ride or die people. And I think it's, this business is just so tumultuous and crazy, and just like, we see each other succeed, and then we see each other fail, and then we see each other, it's like we're all kind of in it together. And
Mm,
I think, yeah, having a community and having a great group of people you can work with and confide in, and just get through this thing, not even just life but Hollywood, is essential. And I've been very lucky, very blessed to have that community.
yeah. Are there, when you're doing like your sets, are there certain clubs that are like your regulars that you try and hit each week, or, that kind of thing?
Mhm. So I not now, only because I'm now rewriting everything.
Yeah.
So it's just been the process of writing and miking, and pitching ideas to comics and things like that. But yeah, I will be. I'll probably be back at the Comedy Store, and like, places like that in LA. So I mean, they're like the Laugh Factory, like they're great places to be, doing stuff and working out material.
Mm, mm. And when you were working out the material for this special, right? Were there pieces that you thought, oh, this is going to be great, and then you find after doing so many like takes of it doesn't fit, like you had to dump it, and
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
others that
yeah,
work.
for sure. Like I feel like just in the exploration of the writing, we obviously wanted it to revolve around the Asian American experience, and then mine ended up being around my identity crisis and being an actor and going to acting school, and stuff like that. So, and I think I had bits where, because I married a dad, married my husband as a father, and so like I had some bits about being a stepmom in there, and then like that didn't feel like it fit. Um, so yeah, there were bits and stuff that I cut out, and didn't feel like we're going to be as powerful, or really fit with this show. So did have to cut some stuff out, but now's the time to explore it again, because
Mm.
gotta keep writing all new stuff.
No, that's good. Like, yeah, how does it feel, right, when you put something out like this, and then it is that like, oh man, my thing is going to be out in the world, but knowing got to create new stuff. Like for that
Yeah, it's
moment when you have to create, like how does that initial period feel like before you start finding those new gems?
I mean, it certainly feels daunting, because I think that, and I'd imagine for both Nikki and Aiden also, because I think they were, we were both workshopping material for like a year. So it definitely feels like, okay, got to clean the slate, got to just start over, got to figure out where we're, going to be putting our energy now. But it also like forces you to write, right? It forces you to like, well, you have to. So there's no excuse. Like you can't just be doing the same freaking jokes over and over, like, because people have already seen this. And so yeah, I'm calling it a daunting and a blessing. It's both. It's both things. So what do I explore next? And I like I told you before, I've written television, I've written television comedies and like specs for TV, and so I've been thinking a lot about, I write a lot about the Filipino experience, and my first pilot was about me being a failed Filipino because I didn't become a nurse, which is a true story. And I've been thinking a lot lately about the exploration of Filipino folklore. So there's a thing called like Filipino, it's like an aswang, it's like a Filipino vampire. I don't know, I've been thinking about that. I've just been thinking about the cultural like ghost stories in the Philippines, and like I love how Jordan Peele, what he's done in horror, and I've never explored horror before as a writer, so those are the things I'm narratively thinking about, along with thinking about other stand-up things.
Okay, all right, yeah, no, that sounds fun. Yeah, I think writing stuff can always be an interesting process. Like one thing I was curious about was the identity crisis. Because I think it's always interesting, like when you hear people talk about those kind of things, because I think firstly, I think so many people have that, but don't realize that, this, you think I'm the only one going through this. Oh my God, no one else can understand. And then
Yeah.
someone else is talking about it and be like, oh, they went through a similar thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, like how was that for you? And do you think, because this is the thing sometimes I wonder about, without the big thing, right? Because I sometimes think like if my eyesight wasn't trash, would I be the same person? Right. So it's just like if you go through that identity crisis, if you hadn't of, would you still be Anna?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, no, I guess I wouldn't be. I would be someone else. I think that the identity crisis, and especially like talking about being half Filipino, growing up culturally, not, I wasn't raised speaking Tagalog. I wasn't raised, I mean, we had, remnants of stuff like that. And the rice cooker was always on, things like that were very Filipino for me. And I call myself like a born again Filipino because I've come into my culture later in life, and I've come into discovering what that is and what that means, for me, because I wasn't super raised around it. But I'm honestly, I'm like kind of grateful for that search, like, and I'm grateful that I can fucking make fun of it now because it's really funny, as I think about it. I'm like, and the more it's interesting because lately, as I've been talking about being mestiza, being hapa half, more and more I've been meeting half Filipinos. Like yesterday I met somebody who's Filipino Mexican, and a chef I work with is also Filipino Mexican, and another friend of mine I just found out is Filipino Italian. Like, so I've been meeting all these people lately who've been coming into my into my life, who also have very similar experiences, like other people thinking they were just Spanish or they were indigenous or they were, whatever. And me constantly having that as mestiza, like, what are you? Are you Filipino? Oh, you don't look Filipino. So yeah, and I still feel like I'm also figuring it out too. I mean, I think that's just like, life. But I'm grateful that I have the jokes to show for it because it's pretty funny. I think about it now. I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Like my girlfriend that I found out was Filipino Italian. She grew up in Oxnard, which is it's in Southern California. But she was like in a gang, and I was like, girl, like I wanted to be like in a gang when I was growing up, like in junior high school. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna be G13, like hard. And I'm like thinking to myself, what was I thinking? Like I think now, like, are you crazy? Like Anna, Jesus, like no, not fine. Because I like wanted to be Latina. So I was like, I gotta be in a gang. Like, God, it's so dumb. So yeah, I'm glad to have come full circle and finally figure out who I am. Taken a while, but
Yeah, I mean, it's a process, right?
yeah.
As I just remember, like growing up, and I mean, you're hanging out with friends and stuff, and it's just like people talking trash and all of that kind of thing. Which I wasn't bad at talking trash, but it's the fighting aspect that then gets problematic because it's just like, you want to be like trying to act tough so people don't fuck with you. But it's a bit like, I don't want to go too hard, right? Because I don't actually want to have a fight because I won't be able to see the punch coming. So it's a bit like this is always kind of think this, playing football and things like that. I remember playing rugby at school, and the tackling part I was good at, but I couldn't see the ball. So
Yeah.
someone had to shout, be like, throwing the ball on the left. And I'm be like, okay, can that work in other instances? And be like, yo, you want to fight, son? All right, step outside and tell me which hand you're throwing first. Okay.
You have to do this. If you haven't done this before, this is a great bit. This is so funny. This is so funny. It's hysterical.
No, I've not done I've not done that. Yeah.
That's really good. That's so funny.
But there's always this, things that come up and stuff. So it's just like, yeah, you kind of think just, why was I doing that? Right? Why was I trying to
You're just a
this
kid.
thing?
Like, yeah,
Why was I embarrassed about like talking about that or trying to, admitting I like this thing? It all seems just ridiculous now. But at the time when you're a kid growing
it's a
up,
huge deal. It's a big deal. Yeah.
so big.
Yeah.
But it's like irritating because I just remember it was like if your trousers were short, like it'd be like, oh, what's wrong with you? Are you poor? Are you poor? And now motherfuckers are walking around with those 3/4 lengths, and that's trendy. And it's just like, yo, we pause, motherfuckers, because it's not fair that you can be cool now, but when I was a kid, I was a poor loser.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It doesn't wash. That's not fair.
That's so funny. Oh my God. That's funny.
Oh man. Like, yeah, like what is on the docket for you now? Right? The special's out, you're writing new stuff, but yo, you guys are striking. So it's just
Yeah.
what does that feel like? Because I guess, it's riding the crest of this wave, right? With the special and the eyes on you. So it seems like this great time now to hit that momentum and do stuff. But now you've got all of these things that are a little bit of a barrier to be able to do stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm continuing to write new material, obviously, because we've got to start over. So the stand-up stuff, like the strike doesn't necessarily affect the stand-up stuff in the sense of like performing as a stand-up. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of hitting the picket lines. It's a lot of I'm pre-WGA, but I'm still doing rewrites and some pilots that I'm working on. And as an actor, it's, everyone's just revamping their materials and just sort of trying to get ready for when TV and film, do start again. I mean, I'm still auditioning for theater because that's still happening. But
I didn't know
yeah,
theater
theater's still
was
happening. Yeah.
okay.
So still doing those auditions. But yeah, I mean, again, this business is so like it's such a roller coaster. I feel like I'm just like, all right, what's the next? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so I don't know. It's like that happened. All right, okay, used to it.
Mm, mm.
But thankfully, the strike is not affecting commercials. So commercials, however, a friend of mine said that a lot of things are going non-union now. So I don't know. Not putting it out there. I don't want that to happen. But yeah, so commercials are still happening, and that's still doing it. But I'm trying to just get on the picket lines and meet people and support the WGA, and I might be out there soon supporting my union. So yeah, we'll see. Keep fingers crossed that it doesn't last too long.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy with that front. But yeah, theater and commercials, that's good that those things are still there.
Yep,
Like,
it's still happening.
is there a commercial you would not do?
Is there a commercial I would not do? That's a funny question. Yeah, probably. Yeah, sure. I wouldn't do like I don't know, a pro Mike Pence commercial or a
But
Trump
they're like,
commercial.
Anna, we think you would be great for our brand. We want to make you the spokeswoman of our diapers, right? Like, we're gonna pay you the big money. So, are you down?
I mean, it's interesting. I actually had this conversation with Felipe yesterday about the commercial world and how he how he feels about it. I mean, commercials are such a wonderful way, I think, to meet, new directors you would never normally meet, be on set, I mean, I've grown a lot as an actor just doing commercials. One of my first bigger campaigns was with Ice-T and Luis Guzman, and I got to rap for him. And, I would never normally do that, if I didn't book a TV show where I was rapping for Ice-T. So I feel like, I mean, yeah, unless if I don't necessarily want to be, doing a commercial for companies that are specifically like anti-LGBTQ or, racist. Like, not, I'm not super excited about things like that. And I think I've been lucky enough to have the same commercial agent for 13 years, and they're very supportive of their actors and understand. And they also understand where I'm coming from too. So, but yeah, I do. I love commercials. They're really fun.
Nice. Like, does that help with the creative process? You know, like doing that kind of thing. Can jokes like spawn from that kind of work?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do a lot of improv in the commercial world, and also in my self tapes for them. So, I think just exercising that skill of like self taping and creating a world, and self taping in general, like being able to do it, especially if I'm not auditioning for TV right now, is always helps to keep things relatively just fresh and fun. In terms of jokes, yeah, I mean, yeah, sometimes I'll come up with stuff when I'm like working on a self tape.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's cool. Like, doing your theater work, did that help with being comfortable on the comedy stage? Because you have that experience of being in front of people. So being on the comedy, although it's different, right? And in theater, you're doing prepared material, but in comedy, it's your own jokes. So there's not the room to hide. So although it's different in that respect, like, was there a comfortability from the theater work?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I just missed a call and I forgot I had a call at 1:15. Hold on, let me just send a quick text really quick. Um, it's my stylist.
Ah, okay. Yes. Oh, yeah. I will let you go soon.
Interview. Okay. Sorry. Will you say that question again for me?
Oh yeah, no. So it was just about if the theater work helped with like being, because you have that background, being comfortable on the stage for comedy. Like
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that it also expedited the process of me being better as a comic because I was so used to being on stage. I mean, that's my background, musical theater, classical text, Shakespeare, theater in general is the backbone of like where I began in my training. And I yeah, I feel like it's helped me exponentially. I never sent you my first, because my first set I actually do a whole thing where I sing at the end. I do a parody of a song, and it's very like musical theater-y but comedy. And I think it's definitely helped me like just be better as a comic, like quicker than I would have been had I not had that training. And I think in general, like theater training is essential to any like being a good actor. I'm of the Phoebe Waller-Bridge mindset, who I'm like obsessed with her. But yeah.
You're gonna be checking out the new Indiana Jones because
Oh
I
yes.
think
Oh
she's
yes.
his daughter. I think that's
She's his
the
daughter, yeah. Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking it must be better than the Crystal Skull. So
I mean, I love her, and he's like 80 something. I'm like, oh, you're still doing it, man. Like, yes.
I mean, it is crazy. Like when you realize how old Harrison Ford is,
Yeah, he is
and still,
old.
yeah, like I know he wasn't doing the same level of stunts and exertion with this one, but still just doing what he's doing on it
Yeah,
is kind of crazy for that age.
dude, he's amazing.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting. It will definitely be interesting. But I have kept you for a while.
I'm glad we got to talk. This is so great.
I mean, we can definitely carry on, but I don't want you to miss more calls.
Yeah, I got to call. It's my stylist. I'm thinking of maybe going platinum blonde again. So we're talking about changing my hair. Hair change. Strike
Okay.
time. So change my hair.
Does does the appearance change the comedy?
Yeah, of course. I mean, sure. Yeah. Because I can make jokes about it.
Yeah. But like, is there a new sense of confidence or that kind of thing? Like, and it can add
I mean,
different
no,
type.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't changed my hair. I actually went platinum blonde over the summer, the first summer of the pandemic, because I was like, I'm not auditioning, might as well just do that. But yeah, I mean, if I feel like hot girl summer, then I'll probably just act more hot girl summer, I guess. I don't know. We could just change things up. I don't know if I'm gonna do it. I might wait for a little bit, but we're doing a consult. So, because when I did it over the pandemic in the beginning part, I like did it myself, which is like not a good idea. So he's like, girl, do not do that again. I'm like, okay, I won't. Do not look cute.
Is there any other color you might decide to rock?
I mean, I would do like red. Like I would if not if I could. I mean, I guess if I could, if I had the thing about hair for me is, especially with commercials, it's like you got to get new shots, you've got to get new
Right.
like
Yeah.
footage, it's like a whole thing, so I try to remain relatively tame so I don't have to like do all that stuff, but I figured like while we're striking, if I'm not auditioning a ton, just like do something fun, but also that could just be made up in my head and maybe none of it like matters anyway, but I actually, as you saw in the special, I did have really like short bangs. And then I finally grew them out, and that was like a really big deal for me because I had bangs for like 20 years. I was like, I'm changing my life, you know. I'm just like, they're just fucking bangs. It's not a big deal. So,
but I do find it funny. But you know, it's interesting how something like a haircut, right? Like just a wardrobe can really change the confidence,
yeah,
right? And so, you know, the walk is different,
yeah,
right? The tone of voice is different, right? Because those just a little shift can just elevate you.
yeah, yeah. I hear you. New clothes. I'm like, I'm smoking. No, yeah, we'll see. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna do it right away or if I'm gonna wait a little bit. We'll see. We'll see what David says. Although David might say don't do it. So, but I do have to call him back.
Right. Yes.
I'm so happy we got to talk. Thank you so much.
No, I definitely appreciate the opportunity. This has been great.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah. So people, right? Asian American Eyz'd, an immigrant comedy special is available anywhere, right?
So
Anywhere
what's
that
on
you,
Amazon, Amazon Prime, Amazon Freebie, and then on Tubi. And then it's probably out somewhere else. But if you just Google it,
yeah.
it's American Eyz'd, EYZ''D. So just we made it hard for people to find. So you find it. Yeah.
All the links will be on the website. Is there anything else coming up that you want to throw out there? Like like
No,
that?
I mean, I'd say just like check out my website. I have my updates on there in terms of press and in terms of what I'm doing. I'll probably be posting shows out there, like show dates and stuff like that. So just keep an eye out on my show dates and come say hi.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, continued success with the special and everything else. And once you develop those other ideas, hey, come back
I'll
and
be
we'll have a
back.
conversation.
I will. Thank you, Kevin.
Tremendous. All right, Anna, you take care.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.